18. 20 years later, with scars running deeper than the skin on his arms, he wanted nothing more than the silence of deep space. Instead, silence betrayed him. His ship's engines coughed mid-jump, sputtered like a dying animal, and threw him into the gravity well of an uncharted planet that glimmered with poisonous green clouds. By the time he tore control back from chaos, it was too late. The descent ripped the sky apart. The crash hurled him against his harness, snapped bones of steel in his ship's frame, and left him crawling out of the wreckage, helmet cracked, lungs burning. The air tasted heavy, sharp like iron, yet breathable. Around him stretched a valley of black stone pillars and forests with leaves as wide as sails, swaying in a wind that carried something older than words. His survival instinct whispered that he had not just landed, he had trespassed. He walked away from the shattered hull, rifle across his chest, every nerve alert. The place was wrong. Too quiet. Even on dead worlds there was always some insect hum or distant shriek, but here, silence sat heavy as a predator's stare. Then, in the corner of his eye, movement. Not an animal. Not quite. She stumbled out from between the pillars, small, frail, her silver skin etched with faint patterns that glowed like veins of starlight. Her hair hung in tangles, and her eyes, impossibly bright, locked on him with a mixture of terror and recognition. She clutched a shard of metal that pulsed with faint blue light. Her voice cracked, shaped by a translator crystal fixed to her throat. "It kills anything," she said. Her words trembled as though each one cost her strength. "Run before night." Marcus froze. He had heard every kind of battlefield warning in his career, but never one spoken with such absolute conviction. He raised his hands, rifle lowered to show he meant no harm, though his finger lingered near the trigger. "Who kills? Raiders? Beasts?" She shook her head violently. "Not raiders. Not beasts. It. One. You must leave." Her eyes darted past him, scanning the forest as though shadows themselves had teeth. She wanted him gone, yet desperation shone beneath her fear. He recognized that look. He had seen it in villages occupied by enemy soldiers, in the eyes of civilians who knew monsters wore uniforms too. Whatever stalked this land had broken her spirit but not her will to warn strangers. That told him she was worth listening to. Still, instinct pushed him to resist. He had fought enough creatures men called unstoppable. They bled. They all bled. "I'm not in the habit of running from ghosts," he said. She stepped back, pressing herself against the nearest pillar. "Not ghost. Death." Marcus studied the alien girl, then the terrain. Black scars clawed across the stone, gouges deeper than any blade could make. He crouched beside one, brushing his fingers over the grooves. The edges were smooth, melted. Not carved. Something had torn through solid rock like paper. Further into the valley lay carcasses, half buried under moss, creatures with too many limbs, their bones shattered, their bodies hollowed. Not scavenged, not eaten. Destroyed. The rifle weighed heavy in his hands. For the first time since he'd left the wreck, unease rooted itself in his chest. He glanced back at her. She was younger than she first seemed, fragile, more like a survivor clinging to the ruins of her people than any threat. And yet, she refused to leave this cursed place. That puzzled him more than her words. "You're staying here," he said, testing her resolve. She nodded, lips pressed tight. "Why?" "Bound," she whispered, almost too soft for the translator to catch. "I cannot go." "But you can." The way she said it, as though his life still held value while hers did not, clawed at him. He thought of the men he'd lost in war, the comrades buried on nameless moons because command demanded it. He had promised himself never again to abandon someone to fate when he had the power to intervene. Night crept across the horizon with unnatural speed. Shadows stretched long and sharp. The wind died, leaving air so still it seemed the world held its breath. The girl's hands shook as she pointed toward the rising dark. "When it comes, all things fall silent. Do not fight. Do not let it see you." Marcus tightened the strap of his rifle, every motion deliberate. His voice was steady, colder than the fear twisting in his stomach. "If it kills anything, then I want to see what it does when something fights back." She looked at him as if he had spoken madness. Perhaps he had. But there was steel in his gaze that war had forged long ago, and no creature, no nightmare, had ever taken that from him. The first sound came then, a low vibration, not through the air but through the ground itself. Stones trembled beneath his boots. A roar tore across the valley, vast and primal, rolling like thunder from a throat too deep to be natural. The girl crumpled to her knees, covering her ears, eyes wide with terror. Marcus lifted his rifle and scanned the horizon. The roar faded into silence, and in that silence, he felt it watching. A shape moved at the edge of the forest. Too massive, too fluid, shifting between the trunks as if they were mere grass. Marcus's grip tightened. He steadied his breath. If it kills anything, he muttered, more to himself than to her, let's see if it can kill me. The shadow grew larger, closer, until the pillars themselves seemed small beside it. The last glimmers of sunlight died, and the valley drowned in blackness. Marcus braced his rifle against his shoulder. Somewhere behind him, the girl whispered a prayer in a language he did not know. The earth shook again, heavier now, footsteps like falling mountains. And then the creature's eyes opened, twin embers burning in the dark, fixed on him. He did not look away. The burning eyes fixed on him without blinking, molten sparks suspended in the dark. Marcus adjusted his stance, rifle pressed against his shoulder, though some part of him knew the weapon was little more than comfort now. The air grew heavier as the creature stepped forward, each motion silent despite its mass. Only the tremor of earth betrayed its weight. The alien girl whimpered from where she crouched, her silver hands clutching the ground as if to hold herself against the pull of dread. Marcus did not take his gaze from the monster. He had faced tanks that roared like storms, soldiers engineered for strength beyond human limits, machines designed to kill with precision. None of them had unsettled him like this, a predator that radiated inevitability. The beast moved closer, revealing more of itself in the dim light. Its body shimmered with black carapace, plates ridged and layered like armor grown from nightmares. Its limbs bent with unnatural fluidity, clawed ends sinking into the earth as though soil itself recoiled. Where its breath touched the air, mist curled and dissolved. Its head tilted, angular and sharp, crowned with ridges that caught what little light remained. Marcus squeezed the trigger. Blue-white bolts tore into the dark, searing through mist and striking its chest. The sound split the silence, echoing against stone pillars. For a brief instant he thought he saw impact wounds spark across the armored hide, but the beast barely flinched. It advanced, ignoring pain as though it had no meaning. He fired again, aiming for the eyes, but the creature swayed aside with a grace that mocked its size. The shots hissed past into nothing. He fell back step by step, guiding it away from the girl, forcing his body into old drills drilled 1,000 times on battlefields far from here. He calculated angles, retreat lines, even while a deeper voice whispered this was not a fight a man was meant to win. The beast lunged. Marcus rolled aside, heat and shadow rushing past where he had stood a heartbeat earlier. Its claws tore into a pillar, carving through stone that should have resisted cannon fire. Shards rained down, cutting his face, drawing blood. He scrambled to his feet, planted another burst of plasma into its flank, then ducked behind broken rock. The ground shook with each of its steps as it pursued. Marcus scanned the environment, searching not for victory but for survival. He triggered a microgrenade from his belt and hurled it toward the creature's path. The explosion lit the valley, hurling smoke and fragments across the clearing. When it cleared, the beast stood untouched, its armor blackened but unbroken. Marcus gritted his teeth. He had fought enemies that bled. This thing did not. It cornered him against a wall of jagged stone, eyes smoldering, body low as though preparing for the final strike. Its maw opened, lined with obsidian teeth, exhaling a breath hot enough to sting his skin. He leveled his rifle, finger tightening on the trigger, knowing it would not matter. Then the impossible happened. The beast froze. Its claws stopped inches from his chest. The fire in its eyes narrowed, studied him, not with the hunger of a predator but with something older, something testing. It sniffed the air, growled deep, and then, it stepped back. Marcus did not move, hardly breathing. His mind raced through explanations, damage from the blast, confusion, instinct, but none fit what he saw. The creature lowered itself slightly, shoulders easing, as though acknowledging him. From behind, the girl gasped. "No," she whispered. "It never spares. Never." Marcus glanced at her but kept his rifle trained on the monster. "Maybe tonight it does." Her face was pale, her luminous eyes wide with disbelief. She shook her head again and again, unable to reconcile what stood before her. "You do not understand. Nothing survives. Nothing." Marcus steadied his breath. He felt adrenaline burning through his veins, yet under it, another sensation stirred, one he had never known in battle. Not triumph, not fear, but recognition, as though the creature weighed him in a balance and found something worth preserving. The beast growled again, lower this time, then turned its gaze to the girl. She shrank back, clutching her shard of metal. Marcus instinctively shifted, placing himself between them. The beast did not strike. Instead, it circled once, slow and deliberate, before lowering itself to the ground. The sight was surreal, a creature meant for annihilation now sitting like a warhound awaiting command. Marcus lowered his weapon a fraction but did not let go. He could not afford illusion. Still, the truth stared at him in burning eyes that had chosen restraint. He was alive not because he had fought well, but because the beast had decided. His thoughts flashed back to the wars. He remembered facing enemies stronger, faster, bred for conquest, and yet humanity had endured. They had no claws, no armor plates, no wings or fangs, only the will to resist. He had seen men rise from the dirt, broken and bleeding, only to fight again with rocks when weapons failed. Something in this beast's gaze felt like recognition of that defiance, that refusal to bow. The girl's voice broke the silence. "You should be dead." "Should be," Marcus said. "But I'm not." She stared at him, fear mingling with something new, hope, or perhaps dread in another form. He could not tell. Her words repeated in his mind, "It kills anything." Yet it had not killed him. That contradiction held weight heavier than any weapon. He took one step closer to the beast. It rumbled low, but did not rise. Its eyes followed his every movement, sharp and unblinking. He reached out slowly, testing, stopping short of contact. The beast's breath washed over his hand, hot and acrid, but still it made no move. Marcus pulled back. He needed answers, but the ruins around him offered none. What he did know was that the girl's warning had been broken tonight, and that truth unsettled him more than the fight itself. The beast shifted, claws raking the earth without violence, as though impatient. Marcus exhaled, lowering his rifle at last. "Then we figure out why," he said quietly, half to himself, half to the girl. The girl trembled, whispering words in her own tongue, prayers or curses he did not know. She looked at Marcus as if he had crossed a threshold no living being should. The night pressed heavy, silence returning to the valley except for the faint hiss of wind. The beast lay still, eyes glowing faintly in the dark, watching him without hostility. Marcus felt the weight of its presence like a shadow stitched to his soul. He leaned against the stone wall, breath slowing, muscles aching. The rifle hung at his side. Survival had never felt so strange. He had not won. He had been chosen. And that realization was more terrifying than death. The beast lingered at the edge of the clearing through the long night, motionless except for the rise and fall of its enormous frame. Its eyes glowed faintly in the dark, unblinking, always fixed on Marcus. The alien girl would not sleep. She crouched against the black stone, trembling whenever the creature shifted. Marcus kept watch with his rifle across his lap, though he knew by now it would not make a difference. His mind ran in circles, tracing the impossibility of his survival. When dawn burned the horizon, the valley revealed itself in pale light. Mist clung to the ruins and coiled between the stone pillars, masking the scars of battle that littered the earth. The beast remained still until Marcus stood. Only then did it rise, stretching its massive frame with the sound of stone grinding against stone. The girl gasped, pulling her knees tighter to her chest. Marcus moved carefully across the clearing, every step deliberate. The beast's gaze followed. When he stopped, it stopped. When he shifted right, its massive head tilted as though mirroring him. He tested further, walking a slow circle. The creature turned with him, patient, waiting. It was not an animal's curiosity, it was obedience. The girl finally spoke, her voice sharp with disbelief. "It waits for you." He glanced at her, sweat streaking through the dirt on his brow. "It looks that way." "This is wrong," she said, shaking her head so hard her tangled hair whipped about her face. "It has never bowed. Not to my kind, not to any kind. It was made to destroy. It is death." Marcus crouched near a broken pillar, eyes sweeping over strange carvings etched into the surface. The markings resembled warriors locked in battle against a towering shadow. Lines of flame and rivers of blood stretched across the stone. At the center, the shadow stood triumphant. Yet in certain panels, a figure stood before it, always tall, always upright, always human in shape. In those carvings, the beast lowered its head. Marcus traced the lines with his hand, feeling the grooves. Maybe death chooses who it serves. The girl recoiled as though the suggestion itself carried poison. "No. That is not possible. It is bound only to destruction." "Everything's bound to something," Marcus muttered. He turned back to the beast. "The question is why me?" The creature's breath rolled hot across the clearing, its chest rising like a furnace. Marcus took a step closer, hand hovering near its armored hide. The beast rumbled low, not in warning but acknowledgement, like a war drum beaten from within its chest. Against his better judgment, Marcus pressed his palm lightly to its carapace. Heat vibrated through him, steady, alive. The girl made a sound between a sob and a plea. "Do not touch it. It will remember you. It will never let you go." Her words cut deeper than she knew. Marcus had lived his life trying to sever himself from the past, to outrun the weight of wars fought and comrades buried. Now another chain threatened to close around him, forged not of duty but of something darker, older. Yet he did not pull away. He held his ground as the beast lowered its massive head, until the embers of its eyes were level with his own. They stood locked in silence. He felt its breath, the tremor of its body, the unspoken truth of its restraint. He whispered under his breath, "You're not my enemy, are you?" The beast blinked slowly, then lowered itself fully to the ground, talons digging into the earth like anchors. The girl rose unsteadily to her feet, hands trembling. "If it has chosen you, then you are cursed. You will bring death wherever you go." Marcus turned his eyes on her, hard and steady. "Or I'll bring it to the people who deserve it." Her mouth opened as though to argue, but no words came. Instead she looked toward the horizon where smoke had begun to thread upward in the distance. Her expression collapsed into dread. Marcus followed her gaze and recognized it instantly. Raiders. The memory of pursuit sharpened into clarity. He had been chased through the void, forced from orbit, and now his hunters had come to finish the work. Black smoke marked the trail of their landing craft, and the sound of engines echoed faintly across the valley. The girl seized his arm, eyes wide. "They will find us. They will take me. They will kill you. They will awaken it fully." Marcus pulled free, already checking his remaining ammunition. "They don't need to awaken it. It's already awake." The beast growled as though echoing his words. Its gaze turned toward the rising smoke, nostrils flaring, muscles coiling beneath its plated skin. It knew what approached. The girl's fear deepened, but Marcus recognized something else beneath it: acceptance. She had expected this end. For her, death at the hands of raiders or beast was inevitable. But for him, inevitability was a word soldiers broke. He paced back toward her, crouching low so his voice cut through her trembling. "Listen to me. You've survived this long because you knew what that thing could do. I've survived because I don't stop fighting. Together, we're going to make sure they regret stepping foot here." She searched his face, perhaps for madness, perhaps for courage. Whatever she found, it silenced her protests. Marcus rose, rifle in hand, and looked to the beast. Its claws raked shallow trenches into the ground, its breath heavy, waiting for his lead. The strangest thought settled over him. It was not a weapon he had tamed, but a storm that had chosen to rest in his shadow. The engines of the raiders' craft thundered closer, shaking the valley. The girl whispered a prayer under her breath, clutching her shard of metal as though it might shield her from what was to come. Marcus adjusted his grip on the rifle and muttered to himself, voice steady, almost calm. They think they're hunting me. They have no idea what's waiting. The beast rose at his side, towering above him, a black silhouette against the pale morning sky. The first shot rang out in the distance. The air tensed, the valley waiting to erupt into violence. Marcus squared his shoulders, heart steady, gaze locked forward. He was no longer alone. The first shot struck stone and shattered into sparks, echoing across the valley like a signal flare. Marcus lifted his rifle and dropped to cover instinctively. Though he knew the raiders' fire was not meant to kill him yet, it was to flush him out, drive him where they wanted. Their shouts carried through the mist, harsh voices, confident and cruel. The girl flinched at every sound, clutching her shard against her chest, but Marcus never took his eyes from the tree line. The beast remained at his side, crouched low, its claws flexing, the ground trembling with every controlled breath. It had not moved until now, but Marcus could feel the tension building in it like pressure behind a dam. Engines rumbled as the raiders' craft cut through the canopy and descended. 6 men emerged in staggered formation, armored in patchwork steel, weapons glittering. They dragged her name through their comms, promising reward for her capture, laughing at the thought of the broken soldier who had crashed here. Marcus remembered their faces, their voices. They had burned colonies, scavenged families, and killed for nothing but weight in credits. They were the kind of men war had taught him to recognize instantly, the kind who would never stop until someone ended them. He rose from cover just long enough to send a burst of plasma into their formation. One raider dropped. The others scattered, cursing, returning fire in wild arcs. He ducked back, the shots searing the stone inches from his face. The girl cried out and covered her ears. The beast shifted forward, muscles rippling, eyes burning. Marcus knew he could release it with a single word or a single silence. The thought chilled him. He had always believed control defined a man, that giving in to power meant losing the part of himself that was human. But as he looked at the girl, pale and trembling, and then at the raiders advancing with laughter on their tongues, he understood what this moment demanded. He stood tall, rifle aimed, voice cutting through the chaos. Go! The beast erupted into motion. The earth split beneath its weight, trees buckled, and stone shattered as it hurled itself into the raiders' line. The first man had no time to scream before claws pierced his chest, snapping him apart like a rag doll. The second emptied a magazine into its flank, the round sparked uselessly, and then he was gone, torn in half. The others tried to retreat, shouting for the ship to lift off, but the beast was faster than engines. It slammed one raider against the hull, crushing metal and bone alike, then ripped through the wing with a single blow. Fire burst into the sky as fuel ignited. The craft tipped, screaming as it tore itself apart. Marcus advanced behind the devastation, rifle precise, calm as though he had stepped into the rhythm of battle he had known all his life. One raider tried to flank him, and Marcus dropped him with a shot to the throat. Another crawled wounded across the dirt, begging, but Marcus did not pause. A single round ended his words. Through it all, the beast fought like a storm given form, tearing through men and metal with the inevitability of a tide. And yet it never turned its claws toward Marcus or the girl. Its destruction carved a circle around them, a boundary none could breach. When the last raider fell, silence returned. Smoke curled into the sky. The forest shuddered with the aftermath of violence. The girl stood frozen, her shard dim in her hands, staring at the carnage with wide, unblinking eyes. Marcus lowered his rifle, chest heaving. He knew the battle had ended, but not the war within him. He had commanded death and watched it obey. The weight of that choice pressed heavy on his shoulders. He looked at the beast as it crouched again at his side, claws dripping, eyes still smoldering, waiting. The girl finally found her voice. "It was made to kill gods," she whispered. "And it has chosen you." He met her gaze, unreadable. "Why me?" Her lips trembled. "It kneels to no weakness. It follows only the will that never breaks. My people tried. They all fell. You did not." Marcus glanced at the beast, then back at her. The truth sank in like a blade. It had not spared him out of mercy but recognition. He was not prey. He was not rival. He was master. The thought filled him with dread more than pride. He had spent years trying to step away from war, yet war had found him again, now in the form of a creature that turned battlefields into graves. He could walk away, abandon it, hope the bond dissolved. But he knew better. The beast would follow. The girl stepped closer, voice soft yet weighted. You are cursed to carry it. But perhaps cursed men are the only ones strong enough to bear such a thing. Marcus looked at her, then at the ruins stretching across the valley, then at the smoke rising where raiders had perished. His hands trembled slightly as he slung the rifle across his back. If it kills anything, he said, voice low, then I'll decide who. The beast shifted its great head, as though bowing in silent agreement. The girl lowered her eyes, whispering words he did not understand. Perhaps a prayer, perhaps a surrender. He could not tell. All he knew was that the path ahead had changed forever. The valley fell silent once more. The smoke thinned. The embers of the beast's gaze glowed faintly in the dark, locked not on the ruins, not on the girl, but on him. Marcus stood steady, though he felt the weight of unseen chains tightening around him. In the wreckage of raiders and ruin, with a creature born to destroy kneeling at his feet, he realized he was no longer simply a man surviving. He had become something else, commander of death, chosen not by his will but by the essence of humanity itself. The girl raised her eyes and whispered the only words that seemed to fit the silence. Not prey. Not predator. Master. Marcus did not answer. He simply stared into the smoke-filled horizon, already imagining the worlds that would tremble if this bond followed him beyond this cursed valley. And for the first time in years, he did not know if humanity's greatest strength was its refusal to bow, or its ability to command what should never have been controlled. The beast settled into stillness beside him, its ember eyes glowing like coals in the fading light, waiting for his next command.